Hi, everyone. How are you? Good morning. Happy Friday. Uh, Another show of, actually, before I start, which they're trying to figure out the slide, just a better sense of how many of you are actually developer? Show of hand. Right. How many of you are actually business people or business students? Okay. Looks like there's actually more business than developer, which is fine. I'm actually a quick background of me. I actually started as a developer, but if you want me to code, that will be the worst idea right now. But I actually started my career about, man, I seem so old. I actually born and raised in Hong Kong, and I moved to the U.S. and when I was 16 years old. And at that time, I actually barely speak English, and honestly, like now, English is still my second language. When I first moved to the U.S., I was thinking, you know what, like I really need to chase after my American dream. But long story short, I actually stayed in the U.S. for college, and after that, my first job shipped me out to Silicon Valley, actually as a developer. I actually did a little bit of coding, and after that, I decided, you know what, I actually really like the U.S. Why don't I actually stay there? And I worked for a company called Siebel System, which is a CRM company. And after that, Oracle bought Siebel, so I was with Oracle, which is a database company. And my last but not least enterprise company is called Autodesk. So about 5 years ago, I realized, you know what, life is short. You got to do something you're passionate about. But rather than working for someone, why don't I actually start my own company? But at the time, I actually really have no idea what I really wanted to do. So I decided, you know what, I need to go find new friends, new entrepreneurial friends. And I went to a couple of events and realized, you know what, I think all these events really sucked. If I would have just come to the Baltics, it would be so much better. But realized, you know what, I should create my own thing. So I started a small little meetup group in San Francisco called San Francisco Entrepreneur Meetup. Started with 5 people, and then 10, and then 30, and then 100, and then turned into 300, 800, turned into actually a business. And I had no idea you can actually do something that you really like. I thought the whole time I was just playing can turn into a business. I'm like, wow. Anyway, so that's sort of my quick stories, but how did it turn into funding and what I'm actually working on now is really all serendipity. And I think definitely, like for all of you guys, should take this moment, take the chance to meet. I'm actually going to give you guys 30 seconds just to introduce yourself to someone that you don't know right now. Your name, what you're working on, and go. 60 seconds. Meet someone brand new, including you guys too. So weird. Okay, so anyone want to share who they just met quickly? That is like, oh wow, amazing! I can't believe I just met this person. Anyone want to share? Anybody? Okay, Chris, who you just met? Yeah, of course. Okay, so that's a networking fail. It's all good. Anyway, I really want to encourage you guys to take this chance to meet as many people as possible. And then, but this is the one time, and by the way, how many of you are actually going to start a weekend? I highly encourage you to find your teammates, go there tonight, and spend the weekend not only learning about all these meeting all these awesome people, bring them with you to actually make something happen. Okay, so now I'm actually going to go into my actual presentation. And I'm actually going to introduce a new theory called the maker's theory. Actually, let's go there. But before, and I think like Jen yesterday sort of talked about, what Silicon Valley is all about. But I actually, before, not about the history of Silicon Valley, but I think Silicon Valley really make up of two kind of people. One is the nerd. How many of you know who this is? Mark Zuckerberg. Everybody knows them. Do you guys know who these two guys are? Anyone? Just shout. Steve Jobs, yeah, and Steve Wozniak. So this is when they were 20, 25 years old. But Silicon Valley was really, really cool also. It's not just the nerds, but also the rich people. How many of you know who this person is? Peter Thiel, that's right, who is also the first investor. Facebook put in the first $500,000 to invest in Facebook. How many of you know who this is? Yeah? This is John Doerr, who is one of the investor of Google, I believe PayPal, and many, many other amazing companies, who also actually used to work for Intel. So the Valley is actually really, really small. But what makes the Valley interesting is that a lot of these rich people are also nerds before. It's interesting, I talked to a few of you, from the Baltics yesterday. I think there's a lot of amazing developers and business people here, but there's just something that is missing, which is the rich people who also used to be nerds. And that's really what makes Silicon Valley, is because there's a lot of appreciation of, it's completely okay for you to go to Startup Weekend, build something, even though you haven't figured out how you're actually going to make money yet. It's completely okay. Because most of the rich guy, it's not really about the money, it's about the investor understanding where a developer is coming from. You can build something, it takes at least maybe 12 months or 18 months to build to a point that you will have 1 million users. But you know what? Once you have the users, the money will come. And I think that's really what makes Silicon Valley. Obviously, a lot of amazing talents, but also investors who understand how to build a technology startup. And hopefully more and more people in the Baltics will also understand that concept as well. So I quickly talk about story about me, but just to kind of finish off and why I'm here talking about the makers theory is that after I created BizTech and all the community, what I didn't know is that there's a lot of entrepreneurs that came through, including the founders of Dolphin, which is where I spent most of my time in. And Dolphin is one of the most popular mobile browser on the Android. And also came through Right Ventures, and which became, the event itself became Deal Flow. Some of the investors probably don't want to tell you they are in the audience right now, but as an investor, we're always looking for amazing entrepreneur to be funded. And for the last 2 weeks, I've been traveling a lot in Middle East and also now in the Baltics. I realized that there's a lot of entrepreneurs wanting to go to the Valley, that's why I really want to introduce the idea of makers. So what's the makers theory about? So M start with market, A start for acceleration, also equal to traction. K, I can't come up with a better word, but K is like kinship, like family. If you have a team just like your family, it's almost like your co-founder is your wife. That's like family. This is someone that I feel like they're so passionate about. That's why I want to invest in you. At E, which is edge, which is what's your unfair advantage. R is revenue, and S is for social proof. So I'm actually going to go into each one of these to explain to you what's the makers theory about, and hopefully next time when you actually get the chance to either go to the Valley or even not go into the Valley to actually pitch your first investor to get funding, this is something that you definitely should think about. All right, I'm really, really big on mobile, probably some of you know, mostly because of Dolphin, and also in terms of investment, I focus on purely mobile apps, particular productivities. So these are some of the trends that I'm really, really excited about that I want to share. As I mentioned yesterday, there's about 821 million phones is being sold in 2012. And next year's prediction is about 1.3 billion. There's a lot of phone, right? So and also to think about, Android phone now have exceeded the volume of sales more than PCs. So imagine like somebody who's like in the middle of nowhere in India have the same access to the internet as you and I do right now in the Baltics. That's amazing. What that meant to all of us sitting here is that you can build a startup And not only for this market. You build something, especially on mobile, guess what? Somebody in China will have access to your product as well. That's the part that's exciting. And on top of that, how many of you actually have an iPad? Maybe. Okay, a few of you. The part I'm excited about, like tablet and iPad actually dominate the market, almost like 70-80% of the overall tablet market. What's amazing to me is for about 10 years or so, I tried to teach my mother how to even have an email. And she picked up an iPad, she get it, and now she's holding it every day, and she learned it in 5 minutes. And same thing for little kids. You don't even have to teach them. And there's little kids in video is that they're trying to play with a magazine just like they're touching an iPad, and they didn't understand why in a magazine, when you click on it, it doesn't go further. That's amazing about mobile, and that's why I think it's one of the trends. And why do I bring up trend? Because if you go into investor, actually not even investor, maybe a customer or maybe a partner, somebody actually willing to work with you or give you money, they all want to know, why do I spend time with you? And if you're working on a problem or on a market that's big enough, even though you're working on like really tiny little problem within a big market, it still could potentially generate a lot of revenue. That's why we need to actually care about trend. The second trend I think is very, very exciting, and all of us should really think about, is because of the rise of the mobile, now we have a way to track exactly where we are. Real time, on the spot, and sort of like the big word is big data. There's so much data that now maybe, I don't know, like 300 or 500 of us sitting here, at this particular moment, well, I'm actually really thirsty, I want water. And you know what? Somebody should know that we're sitting right here, that probably if I should be selling food outside. Or, all the sponsor knows that all these students and entrepreneurs, like all these real-time, on-the-spot data, it generates a lot of potential e-commerce that we can sell to each other because we know we're hungry now, it's nighttime, we're at this spot. There's a lot more potential opportunity that can happen because of this. And the next thing that I sort of mentioned it yesterday, I think is definitely a shift of mentality. City B, which is sitting right outside, is car sharing. This concept didn't exist before. Airbnb didn't exist before. That who knew that you actually would pay $50 to stay on my couch? It seems something that my parents would never do, but guess what? This is happening. And also Lyft, which is car sharing, so you can actually share my car, or Grubly, which is one of our friends who mentioned yesterday about sharing food. Invite your friends to your house and actually have a meal together, or even stranger. And all these actually didn't really happen before, and that's the part that's actually very, very exciting. Can you imagine maybe sharing clothes, or maybe sharing your phone, or maybe there's so much other things. Why do I need to buy a TV? Maybe I can actually share with you too, and take turns. So there's a lot of potential opportunities. And from a developer point of view, the best part is really, really low cost of entry. I actually read somewhere yesterday, 10 years ago, it cost about $300,000. Okay, don't quote me on it, but that's what I read. $300,000 to maybe get like a 10 gigabyte of storage. Very, very expensive. Now, maybe 20 cents. Really, really cheap. So all this means is that all of you, even though you have no money, no funding, you still be able to create a startup and just play around with it, build a mobile app, because it's so much cheaper. There's no need for you to actually raise millions of dollars. In fact, you can just do it in your bedroom and be able to create all these, using all these amazing tools, all platform as a service, infrastructure as a service. That's why you need to talk to Alex, who's going to speak next, and he's definitely the expert on that. All right, so we talk about the market, some of the trend, and when you're being a maker, you need to understand what you're going after. And then the next thing is all about traction. So the Valley is actually really, really big on, and actually I don't want to say only for Silicon Valley. I think all of us as entrepreneurs, sometimes we're so in love with what we're doing. And I've been meeting a lot of entrepreneurs for the last 3 weeks, and a lot of times I said, what are you working on? And they will go in this really long story and how they were born, and like this is so painful. And you know what? Most people don't care, and I'm sorry. Like I know you're in love, and I'm sure that is a great startup, but honestly, I don't care. But what I really care is that after you talk about this is such a big problem, you know what? There's traction. So one of the things is, we grow from 0 to, let's say, 20 million users in X number of days. That's impressive, right? There's something that's basically to tell you, you know what? I know what I'm doing, and in a very, very short time, I'm able to grow from X to Z. This is a company, a portfolio company called Mighty Tex. It took them 9 months to get to first million. It's not bad, we're urging they can do better, but that's not bad, and which scored them a TechCrunch article just happened 2 days ago. But think about if you would create your own sort of pitch line. Hey, and it's okay, and you know what, a lot of times, let's say, shoot, it took me more than 10 months. That's okay, at least, you are working towards a goal. People like to work with people who are not just, you're not here to create another side projects and like for our project for fun. You're really serious about building a business. And you know what, even you're not serious, as a credibility as a person, you want to show that you know what you're doing and you're able to achieve some goals in a short time. And my suggestion is that, you know what, if you're working on something for a couple of years and you're still not getting any customer, you're probably on the wrong track and should move on and do something else. The next thing is kinship, like a family. This is a company that we recently got involved called Strikingly. And the three of them are actually on a travel visa in San Francisco right now. They are trying to basically incorporate a company. They're two amazing engineers and a business guy, three of them. One of them actually just dropped out from college because they decided, you know what, there's more to life than studying. I need to build a startup. So they moved to San Francisco, have nothing. Three of them share, I think, a one-bedroom apartment, eating ramen every day, but they're loving it. So for us, being involved with a company like this, we're thinking, you know what, this is the type of guy, they will sell their firstborn child because they want to make the startup happen. This is the type of people that you want to associate yourself with. When you're picking your team, when you're really kind of building up that family, and literally when you actually have a person, that person, your co-founder, is just like your wife, and your startup is just like your baby, and you want to actually fund people like that. And so when you tell your story, you doing something like that show your commitment and also really show your passion. And that's the type of people that most of the investors want to fund. And then the next thing is the E part, right? You have the market, you have really, really good traction, you build up an awesome team, and now what exactly is your edge? What is your unfair advantage? Something that you have, nobody else have. So you want to say something like, my startup is the world's first and only something. And I'll show you guys a few examples. So for example, Dolphin, we're the world's first and only gesture and also voice-enabled browser. Or let's say if you don't have the patentable technology part, you can say, you know what, we are, all our founders come from PayPal. This is a quick picture of the PayPal mafia. All the different people who started PayPal all became the founder. LinkedIn and Yelp is just building amazing company. If you can actually say, our whole founding team come from PayPal, that meant something. Or you're the first to market. We're the first one that bring the Groupon concept to market. Not saying that Groupon right now is doing really well, but they were the first one. So the first to market, even though it's not a sort of a defendable sort of technology, they still get most of the market share because they were the first one. Or you have a language. So unfair advantage is if you are from China, for example, most of the American startup never made it to China. Bo Wei was going to talk about more later today about China. But it's almost like a one-to-one mapping or one-to-many mapping to the Yelp or LinkedIn or Facebook. There's a Chinese version of it. So there's an unfair advantage if you speak Lithuanian, nobody else in the Valley speak, even though it's not a huge market, but you have an unfair advantage that nobody else have. Or location. This is just a quick screenshot of oil, for example, have nothing to do with technology. But if you're in Saudi Arabia, there's tons of oil. That's an unfair advantage. That's natural resources that no other country have. So that also makes you unique and have the edge when you build your company. All right, so far we talk about unfair advantage, the market, the team, and then also the traction. So now, at the end of the day, you have all that, but still, like, I want to know how do you make money. And there's many, many ways to make money. And I will give you a little example of how Lady Gaga makes money. But if you actually think about, right, so you can, recurring revenue means, when you actually buy a mobile phone, every month you pay, like $50. That's recurring. It will continue to give you more and more money. Or one time, let's say you buy an album, you buy a TV. You buy a TV is one time, you're done with that transaction. So, and then, or usage. What that means is, for phone, you don't necessarily have to pay every month, but instead I can prepay 500 minutes, and that means usage. And you do the same thing with buying gasoline. It's the same thing. You pay as you go when you use more. Or advertising, which, that's how Google make money. Licensing, Angry Bird. Angry Bird now not only doing mobile game, but they also have movies. When that happens, is a licensing of your IP. Or affiliate sales. So that's actually happened quite a bit in the mobile industry. How do you actually drive more install? So I'm actually paying not for impression, but also for each install. Or when this person give me their email address, then I pay you. So that's sort of a referral, sort of like advertising, but a little bit different model. So there's many, many different ways of making money. But for Lady Gaga, if you think about it, right? So she obviously have her album, but she also have concert. She also have her fan club, which you can get all the news. And if you want to get more exclusive news, you have to pay, which is recurring. And then also she worked with Zynga and have a Gagaville, which she licensed out herself as IP to actually be involved in these games. And on top of that, she does an advertisement on Miracle Whip, which is product placement. So she's on all these commercials, and that's how she makes money. So think about the little things that you create. There's more than one way to generate revenue, and sometimes not necessarily the normal consumer customer. It could be the business. It could be big business wanting to, buy your data, maybe. Maybe you want to fund the whole thing completely free. You get corporate sponsorship because they want to have access to your audience. There's many, many ways to make money, but from an investor point of view, what they want to know is that you are thoughtful about it. You don't have to necessarily prove out that that's the way to do this. And in fact, I think many, many times, if you don't really need to build 6 months or 3 months. A lot of time, if you're being a good entrepreneur, you can sell it before you even build it. Just talk to your customer, this whole lean startup models. How do you build your minimum viable product, which you guys should learn that over Startup Weekend this weekend. But there's a lot of these revenue model. You can prove it out even before you build a product. But how do you actually, what's your thought process? And that's what most of the investors are looking for. And last but not least, the makers, which is the final S, is social proof. This is actually, I don't think is necessary, only applies to Silicon Valley, but it's something that most of the Silicon Valley entrepreneurs are really, really good at doing, which is social proof. When I say, you know what, my investor is Peter Thiel, that meant something. Or my advisors are all, founders from Google, that meant something too. Media, I have tons of media coverage that talks about what I'm working on. Or my customers are, the biggest operator in Lithuania, that meant something. Or my partners are the UN, they are working with me because I'm building something amazing. Or my employees are all people who used to work for Facebook. If you can plug in this formula and basically be able to show your social proof. So for Dolphin, what we have now almost 800 or 850,000 review on Android. We have about 50 million users. And so Sequoia, which is our investor, we sometimes partner with Microsoft. We get coverage on TechCrunch. Oh, by the way, we just signed a carrier deal with China Telecom, which is the second largest carriers. When I said that, that meant something, right? That meant this is social proof. And you haven't even seen the product, but already good enough for you to play with it, to look at it, at least open door for you to have another invest or It doesn't matter. It doesn't have to be investor. At least another partner conversation, or your customer, at least, you know what? Maybe they know what they're talking about at a minimum to score a second meeting with them. So anyway, to repeat, the makers, which is M, start with market, and A, acceleration, traction. K is kinship, family, the team that you're building. E is the edge, the unfair advantage. R is revenue, and S is social proof. So with that, hopefully you remember the next time you're preparing your presentation, and in fact, probably you can do it this weekend when you're done with building your MVP. But one thing I want to leave you guys with, this is one of my favorite poems, and many of you are still students, maybe thinking, building a startup is definitely not for me. But you know what? There's only two, this is a road not taken, and I'm only going to say the last part, which really, really hit my heart, I think, when I first went to the US, is I shall be telling this with a sign, somewhere ages and ages hence, two roads diverge in a wood, and I took the one less traveled by, and that made all the difference. And hopefully, all of you are taking a role that is not being told because your teacher or your parents tell you to do so. You should actually make a choice of which path that is really meant something to you because you're really passionate about it, because you really believe this is the road that you should take. And also to end with, there's a few more reference, and in case you want to learn more about it, Venture Hacks, there's very, very particular articles that Paul Graham or Guy Kawasaki or Dave McClure have written about raising money, so hopefully those are helpful as well. And I will put this slide on SlideShare so you guys can just grab this. And that's it. Thank you.